Hi, everybody. How are you guys doing?
Really good, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm doing all right.
Remember, turn your cameras on because we want to be more interactive. I know some of you, a handful of you are not able to because you're either listening from work or what have you. That's understandable, but the rest of you, if you can go ahead and turn your camera on, that'll be great. And we'll go ahead and start kicking this off.
Thank you. Is that Brandon Bihari or is that another Brandon?
That's me.
Bihari, yeah?
Yes.
Cool, thank you.
Alice, you're taking attendance for this meeting?
I'm trying to, but to be honest,
Alice, it's not necessary. There is
oh, there is. Okay,
participant list in Zoom, so I can send that to you.
perfect.
I can send that to.
Perfect, thank you.
You're welcome. All right, guys, so we're over the 7 o'clock hour. And so let's go ahead and get this started. As you guys remember, this is a TD Bank workshop that we're doing. We heard from Brandon, Mr. Dean, and Miss Judith last 2 weeks ago. So they're again they're back with us, and they'll give us some more well, actually an entire workshop, finance workshop. So hopefully you guys can listen up, participate. Hopefully you'll have questions and walk away with quite a bit in terms of your finance knowledge that you'll gain today. So go ahead. I'm not sure who's kicking this off, if it's Miss Juliet or if it's Mr. Dean.
It's going to be me.
Who wants to take this?
All right. So good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here to take part. It's a great opportunity here. We're so happy to be working with young coaches. So thank you for having us. And thank you guys for being here. This is going to be a pretty in-depth workshop here that we're doing. It's going to cross over a couple different categories, and it's going to be more about some of the products that the bank offers and how you write checks, how you use a debit card, credit cards, and a little bit into accounts as well. So hopefully we're all excited to learn about that. We're going to actually start off now. Going to open up for a couple questions, and we're looking for no answer is a wrong answer, but we're looking for some answers in reference to it. So the first question I'm going to ask is, how do you pay for your clothes?
Go on, Christopher. What do you think? How do you buy your clothes or does somebody else buy them?
Well, I don't think I've bought clothes before, but my guess would be you go to the store, and then if you have real money, then you would take out your money, and then you would get the piece of clothing that you want to buy, and then you'd bring it to the register, and then you'd give them the piece of clothing, and then you'd pay for the clothes, and then they would give it to you once you paid them. That's just my guess, though.
Okay, so you're saying, are we talking about cash, bringing in cash?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Anybody else have an answer as well? Another way that you could pay for clothes other than cash?
You could pay with the card, either debit or credit.
Perfect. Now, let's say you wanted to go to the movies or eat out or buy some video games. Other than cash and a debit card, can anyone think of maybe another way you might be able to pay?
You could use Apple Pay.
Yeah, I was gonna say Apple Pay.
Oh, perfect. Apple Pay. I think Android Pay is another one. Those are another great way to pay for those activities. I see someone writing a debit card, a gift card. Great, thank you. Now, I'm going to ask a toughie here. If your parents have to pay a bill, right? Electric, telephone bill, car bill, How do you think they pay for it? There we go. I see a lot of people writing check in here. Yep, yep, yep. So couple different ways. One is electronically letting the company, providing them your account information. Another way of doing that is writing a check. Has anybody ever had an experience of either seeing what a check looks like or sitting next to a parent and seeing them write a check? It's okay to just, put a hand out there or whatever. Perfect. Lucas, you've had some experience. Nicholas, I see your hand up there. Now, question I have for you guys. We had some take home, and one of the things that we had in the take home was a little sheet here to discuss what a check looks like. I know it's not really coming up for me that well, but do we all have the check damper sheet today?
This one? Is
Mhm.
that
Perfect. Yes, that one. Let's make sure we have that handy. We're going to go over that in a little bit. So, the objective today, what we're going to talk about the objective is the end of the lesson. We want to make sure that you know how to write a check. We want to make sure that you know how to keep track of activity in your checking account. And you'll also be able to discuss ATM, credit, and debit cards. We want you to be able to list the advantage and the disadvantages of those products. I'm going to just take one quick moment, and I know we had some answers last time with people about savings accounts. Does anybody here have a checking account? It's okay to just throw your hand out there, or you can respond directly. Perfect. Got some people there. Now with your checking account, I think what Ariana is the one that's sticking up for me. How do you put money into that checking account?
When I used to get my check for YCP, like an actual check,
Mhm.
I used to just go and deposit however much I wanted to. Like if I wanted to deposit all of them, I would put all of them, or if like two of them, I would just do two. But now I just use the app to like transfer money from like my regular like debit account, like I forgot what it's called, to my checkings account.
Gotcha. So you're moving money with a transfer between accounts, which is another means of something that you can do with your checking account. All right. Now, you mentioned before a check. So you get paid by a check. So you bring that into the account and you make the deposit with the check, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, this is going to be an open question. Why do you think we use checks still?
anyone take any answers? Any guesses? Paul, what do you think?
For like security purposes.
Great answer. Any other answers out there?
Another way of getting paid, like another way of payment.
Okay. I see Lucas with a big deposit. That's great. Somebody owes you $10,000. Do you want 100 bills? No, you'd rather have one small item that you can bring into a bank, right?
So it's convenient. It's like a promise, isn't it? It's a promise to pay. It's convenience.
Right. Just like the convenience would be doing like the alternative options where we talked about like the mobile or the Apple Pay, also paying your bills electronic as well. There's another convenient ways of making payments. Now, we talked a little bit about checking accounts. What ways can you use a checking account? So no wrong answers here. We're just going to say if you wanted to make purchases, we talked about some things earlier today. We can repeat some of those things. We can also throw some other things out, ways that you can use your checking account. Any thoughts?
Take that money and invest it into something else that makes you more money.
Investing, okay. That's a way, absolutely. What about if you have to buy food or pay for groceries? What other things can we think of? What other things do your parents maybe use their account for, or their cards for?
If they want to buy something online to send to somebody who isn't nearby.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, can anyone tell me an example of any time that you might have seen your parents write a check from their checking account?
My mom like writes checks to like my music teachers.
Perfect. Like to pay for the music teacher. What about, do you guys do any like book clubs or book fairs in school? Do you ever give checks for that? How about school pictures? What about any type of trips you might be going on for school? Have you ever seen a check being used for that? Yeah, I see some head shaking. So the reason that we still use checks in today's world is paying by check is a safe way to pay for things. And the reason why it is safe is because you're giving permission to only one company or one person to receive a specific amount of money. All right. So the benefit of if a check is written correctly is you're saying to the receiver, the person that's getting that check, this is the most I'm allowing you without them being able to take more. And you're putting a restriction to say, hey, listen, you can only take what I'm writing here from this item from my account. All right. So it gives you a little bit of convenience and a little bit of safety. All right. Do we have any questions right now about checks? No? Okay. So now I want you guys to take that packet, the first piece that we have here where we look at checks, right?
What, this one?
So it's the one that Alice is showing right now for us. Now, if you notice, there's a couple different spots on a check that you're looking for, right? We call that at TD Bank a damper, right? So it's DAMPER. Without these 6 pieces, a check is not good. All right. Now, these are the things that you would look for us when we're depositing a check. And these are the things that if you're writing a check or someone's giving you a check, these are the things that you should be looking for to make sure that the check that they're giving you does make sense and the check that they're giving you can be brought into the bank. All right. So can someone tell me what the D in damper stands for? I'll give you a hint. It's right there.
The date.
Perfect.
You want me
Okay.
to take this down? Sorry, is it a cheat thing? Do you want me to take it down or do you want me to leave it up?
So right. So D is for date. All right. Date is the most important thing when it comes to checks, right? So do you know why the date is important? Any answers out there? Good answers.
Alessia, why do you think it's a good idea to have a date on a check?
So that they know that you're not like faking it.
Good answer. Any other
Also,
answers out there too?
to keep track of the check history.
Keep track of check history.
Sophia,
Okay.
you've got your hand up. Sophia?
To like make sure that it's like for that specific time and that it wasn't like saved or anything.
Perfect.
Yeah,
there's
say it's not old, that it
Mhm.
didn't happen years ago, and you've just found it and said, "Oh no."
Yep. So
Oh, I have a
because
question.
go
Sorry.
ahead.
Why is it that you have to deposit a check within like I think 90 days or like 3 months or something like that?
Okay.
Why is there like an expiration date?
So checks, in the most part, have a 6-month time frame. So if a check is not deposited within the 6 months, there's a high probability that the check will not be honored. And what that means is there's a high probability the bank might say no to that check. Now, there are exceptions. We always recommend to a person, if they have a check that is past the 6 months, to speak to the person that wrote that check to make sure that they didn't do what we call as a stop payment. So that means that they haven't put it in a system to say this is lost. If they haven't done that, then in some cases it's still okay to cash that item. The other exception would be some checks literally have written on them void after a certain amount of days. So if it has that on it, then it can't exceed those days because they have a fail safe in place that their system will automatically cancel that check if it's past those days.
And actually, can I just make one little comment that we've still got some checks that went out for the spring season, guys. Some of you haven't cashed those yet. So if you have them, go and cash them, because we don't want the 6 months to go by and we don't have the money because I've spent it all.
Right. That's another valid reason, an important reason for why you want to cash checks as soon as possible. When someone gives you a check, the money doesn't come automatically out of their account. So if you give someone a check, you can sometimes forget if you've had that check out for a long period of time. And when you forget, sometimes you might spend that money. So that's why it's important that, you bring that check in as fast as possible so that that money doesn't get spent. The reason why we look at checks is checks are basically the equivalent of cash, just a little bit different than cash. And the reason why we say you don't want to wait too long with checks is, or why you don't want to write a date that doesn't make any sense is you think about it like this, right? If you have a friend, right? And your friend's going to give you money. How long do you think that it's acceptable for you to take to pay that guy back or that person?
What do you mean if you owe somebody some money and
Mhm. How long do you think is
I'd like it
acceptable to
soon.
pay them back?
I'd like it quick. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, you should be
So-
paying them back like as soon as possible.
So let me ask you a question. If you were to write a date on a check, what date would you put? Would you put today or would you put a year from today?
Perhaps I put last year.
Or put last year?
That'd be really confusing.
So you think of it like this, right? If you have a friend and you owe your friend money, I'm sure you would love to say to your friend, hey, listen, I don't feel right like paying you back or whatever right now. I would like to wait for a year, but you can't do that with checks, all right? Because when a check's written, it has to make sense for both parties, just like when a bank does business, it has to make sense for everybody, right? So while that does make sense, maybe for you, it doesn't make sense for the receiving party. So make sure that you're always taking care of those checks in a timely manner. It's very important, and not doing it can potentially result in fees. All right. All right, we're going to move on to the A in damper. Can someone tell me what the A is?
Shall I put it up again, Brandon, or do you want them to say it?
It'd be great if somebody could say it.
Is it amount?
That is it. It's an amount. Yes, correct. So the amount of money that you want someone to pay. So if you are trying to write it for $50, you want to make sure that you're writing the check for $50, not 500, or leaving it blank. Leaving it blank will give someone that avenue to change the dollar amount. Definitely don't want that. All right, next we're going to move on to the M. Who's got the M for me? Anybody? Okay, so that would
You
be
said M?
Mhm.
Sorry
What was
about that.
that?
Management?
M would be maker.
Maker. Okay.
So the maker is the person that's actually filling out the check. So what we look for when we have the maker is a signature on the bottom. So if you see on the check on the bottom right, there's a part that you have to physically sign. And that's the most important part that we're looking for, because without that signature, that check is not good. All right. Your payee. Now your payee, this is the for the P for payee. It has to be your name. If they're giving you a check and it doesn't have your name on it, there's some questions that you have to ask the person, right? So if someone's writing you a check, right? You get checks, they have your name, correct? Now there are some exceptions, but we're not going to talk about those today. But the payee should be to you, the person that's receiving it, or if you're the person that's writing it, it's the person that it's going to, or the business that it's going to. You know, if you're trying to buy a game and you're writing a check to GameStop, you're not going to give them a check that says ShopRite on it, right? Because they can't take that check. It doesn't make sense.
Brandon, can I
Endorsement.
just
Mhm.
can I just add something before you move
Go
on?
right ahead.
So the amount must not only be in words, but you have to write it in figures as well. So it's $50. You write the 50, and then you also have to write it in words as well. And somebody put in the chat, thank you. Right, there you go. 15 words and 15 figures. And somebody also put in the chat, can't you just fake a signature? I do not recommend that.
Isn't that like really illegal?
Don't recommend that.
No, definitely not.
Okay, Brandon, thank you.
Thank you. All right, so the next one that we go to is E for endorsement. And you are correct, that is fraud. So the endorsement is you signing the back of the check, saying that you're the one that's going to negotiate it, or you're the one that's going to cash it. So you want to make sure that you're signing the back of your checks, because that makes it verified as that's you and it's your funds, and you're the one that's actually taking care of those funds. You're going to be the one depositing them.
Is that the same with every check, Brandon? I didn't know that. That's the same with every check.
So there should be an endorsement on every check, regardless of whether you're physically signing it or something's written on the back of it. Like some places will put for deposit only on the back of your check. It is usually a bank requirement. However, we're in a digital age. So what that means is people don't tend to check this stuff. So sometimes it'll just go through without it being checked. However, we rely on the system to kind of do its job. We have seen situations where checks have gone out without a signature, and the paying bank have said, this doesn't have a signature, we're not going to cash it. Rare, but it does happen.
So you have to be very careful how you write the check. And then once you've received the check, you have to be aware that you have to write your signature on the back.
Correct. And the last part that we're going to go on for R
Who
Anybody
knows
got the
who the
last
R
one?
is?
Can I ask a question, Brendan?
Go ahead.
Yeah. So what's happened to our young coach? For example, a young coach is working on the field. At the end of the season, the young coach receive a check, but the young coach is between, let's say, sixth grade to eighth grade, and they currently banking through their mom or dad or their parents.
Mhm.
So who signs the check? Is a young coach, because the young coach name is on the check. Does the young coach sign the back of the check or the parents sign the back of the check?
Good question.
Good question. As the young coach could potentially be a minor at the time, it is acceptable for a parent or custodian or guardian to actually negotiate that check for them. What we would recommend is we do have, and most branches have it, an endorsement stamp that we would place on it that they're attesting to say that they're the parent or guardian of the minor of the time.
Okay. All right. You get that, young coach?
Understood when something like that would happen.
For all young coaches who are going to be receiving the check at the end of the season, you got that right? Your mom or dad or parent or custodian, someone who is actually over you and taking the check will have to take the check and endorse it, and the bank endorse it so you can receive the money. Yeah.
Also, don't forget that we do offer accounts for as young as 13 for a checking account.
Okay.
So if you are at that age or older, you can come with a parent, guardian, or custodian, and they can, assist you with setting up an account as well. And then for anyone that's younger than that, we do have savings account options as well.
Wow, that's fantastic to learn. Yes.
So when you receive a check, now we have a template that we just showed you. Remember that checks come in all different styles and all different colors, all different backgrounds. And some banks might give them for free, or some might charge you a cost for the checks. Just because a check might look a little bit different does not mean it's not okay. That's one thing that banks do allow a little bit of creativity. So, what you might find from young coaches check-wise might look a lot different than what we just showed there. And it could be a lot different from, a check that you receive from someone else, but don't be discouraged by that. Now, just remember, that's why we just went a little bit over it. We just talked about if a check is written correctly, but just remember that if a check is written incorrectly, if we're missing some pieces there, the bank might not negotiate that check. And we talked about it being late or past that 6 months. That's another situation where we might not negotiate the check. But if the check's written incorrectly, which means a signature might be missing, or the date might be missing, or your endorsement might be missing, or the dollar amount is written just wrong and doesn't make sense, we might come back and say, well, while we would like to cash this or deposit this item, unfortunately, we can't because of the way it's written. So writing a check and writing it clearly and neatly and getting all those pieces are very important for your check writing. Now, let me ask you guys a question. Do you think you can write a check for more than what you have in your account? Any answers? Just raise your hand. We'll get to you. Or you can chat.
A lot
I
of
see a lot of
people
people
shook
shaking-
their head no.
Yeah, I see a lot of people shaking their heads.
What was the question?
Can you write a check for more than what you have in your account?
Oh, I don't know. I wouldn't think so.
That is correct answer. You should never write a check for more than what you have in the account. All right. There's a reason for that. One is we might not pay that check. If that check comes in and it's more than what you have, we might say no. we're not going to pay this item, which that means the person that's looking to get those funds, they're going to be told no. They might get charged a fee. You'll definitely get charged a fee for writing a check when you don't have enough in your account. So there'll be possibly two receiving fees, and you're not going to look like a good person to the other person that you've given that check to.
Hey,
They're gonna start
Brandon,
asking questions.
Brandon, can I jump in really quick for
Mhm.
clarification for our younger group that's on this call? When we talk about how much we have in the account or what we have in the account or funds, we're talking about cash that you would have deposited into the account. Just so everybody can keep up. I don't necessarily think. Okay, so is that understood? It's cash that you'll have in your account that you would have deposited money. All right, go ahead.
So, yes, the answer is you don't want to write a check for more than what you have on your account, because it's not a good experience, and there could be fees that come from that. Now, we did have a little bit of a packet there where we had some sample checks. Does everyone have their sample checks where they can start filling out their own check as a little bit of practice?
Any
We
of you
have them
managed to
all.
print that off? You got a show of hands. Did you manage to print one off? No? So if you haven't printed it off, why don't I just hold this here, and then you can see, and Brandon, you can talk through.
Okay. So this is a sample check that we have for everyone to practice basically writing a check. Now this is kind of going to be a bit of a take-home project when it comes to writing a check. If you have it printed, what I would ask for is if you do a practice check. This is completely up to yourself. You can make it to whoever you want to make it to. You can put whatever dollar amount you want it to be as well. Preferably within reason, 50, 100. We don't want to see like millions out there, but why don't we have you guys take a moment to, if you have those practice checks, just to fill out one based on that prior sheet of what we're looking for. And if we can show a couple of them to kind of see what is there and kind of, compare the two. And I'm going to do one as well. I don't know if the rest of you, like DJ, yourself, Alice, Vanetta. We're going to take a moment for that, okay? Beautiful one there for Mickey Mouse with a signature of Donald Duck. I love that. Feel free to hold up as you finish one. That is almost perfectly written. It is missing a date for Donald Duck.
The date. That. I get my marks up.
As you finish the first one, feel free to hold it up and that way we can take a look at it.
Have you got one, Daniel? Is that you trying to hold it up? Oh, right, okay. But are you getting the idea of how you write who the check is payable to, the payee, how much in figures, and then how much in words? It's quite a long process, but that's because it's a legal thing, isn't it? It's important to get it right.
Yep.
Yep.
And you have to be very clear, because if you like Brandon said, if you write 50 but it looks like 500, that's a nasty shock.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And a signature is just how you write your name. It doesn't necessarily have to look like your name, that it's how you write your name when you're not trying to be extra clear for your teacher at school. Do any of you have a signature? Do any of you practice, or have you had an occasion that you've had to write your name in a signature box? Yeah, Sophia? I see one person nodding.
Let's see if mine without the virtual background is legible there. So we have a check for TD Bank for $50. Well, don't forget, we have one for young coaches as well for $100.
We'll have that, thanks. We'll
Take that straight to the bank. It's on TD. Any others there?
Has anybody else printed off the sheet? Has anybody else written out a check they want to share with us? We just want to make sure that you're understanding. You want to give us a thumbs up if you understand what we're talking about? Thank you. Thank you, guys. Yeah, thank you. Okay, I think that's quite clear then, Brandon. That's great.
All right.
Thank you, Brielle.
Thank you. Thank you guys for writing those checks. I appreciate that. Always can come in and you can ask questions if there's any additional input that you have in reference to that. We're going to move forward though. We have basically, what do we call that? A checkbook register page there that was a part of the packet as well. Now, how that register works is, and this was something that Judith went over last call that we had. And the way the checkbook register works is that's where you keep your record of everything that you're doing transaction-wise. So you would start with your starting balance, whether it be, you're starting with 100, 400, whatever your balance is when you're starting. And then when you write a check, you're supposed to take that check off of that. So just going to go briefly across the line there. You would write your checking number on the left. Then you would put the date that you're writing that check. And then the description, which is important, because how would you know what you're spending your money on without saying this check is going to young coaches, or this check is going to, I don't know, pay your Apple bill or your iPad or whatever it is. So you always want to put a description there of what the item is. And then the next column would be your negatives column. So your negatives is your payment or your debits. So we use the word debit, but what that means is just money coming out of your account. So if it's $50, you would write minus 50. If it's 100, you would write minus 100. And then you would basically at the end of that sheet on the balances, that's when you would put how much you have left over. So if you started your account with $100 and then you did a minus $50, you should show a $50 balance in your account. And that's one of the ways that you can help with tracking your transactions so that you don't ever spend more than what's in your account.
Can you see this? I did an example.
Can you hold it closer to the screen?
Oh, I'm gone. Okay.
Does anyone have any question about this? Are you with Brandon here with that? How to balance your checkbook? Everyone understands this?
I did a sample right here. I don't know if everybody can see it.
Yes.
Yes, we can see it.
Yeah, I was just trying as well.
Okay, we have 30 people on the call on this Zoom. I only see Ariana's thumbs up. Do you guys want him to say that again? Repeat that?
Yeah.
I
No.
think you should repeat the debit part for them, because I think the only reason why I would understand that is because I'm in an accounting class.
Ariana is a third-year college student.
So everyone
accounting
else might,
class.
I don't know if they understand the debit part.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so your debit part, which is your payments or debits. So as we talked about before, a debit is anything that comes out of your account. So that could be a withdrawal. That could be you taking money from an ATM machine. That could be you writing a check to take money out via that way. Or that could be you using a debit card, or you could use this technically for, well, no, that would be you using a debit card or an ATM card to take money out of your account. So anything that is a negative or anything that's taking away from your balance would be considered a debit.
Does anyone know why we would do this? Why we would write it down like this and keep a running idea of what we've come in and out? What was the point of that? Why would we write it down like this? Why can't we just write checks? Anyone?
I think it's to just keep track of what's going on with your account, just in case at some point, like God forbid, there is money coming out of your account that you weren't taking out. If there's any fraud going on or anything that happens like that, you're able to catch it really quick and say like, hey, I did not keep track of this. I wasn't the one to take this out of my account, so someone else is doing it.
That's perfect. Thanks, Ariana.
Is there another reason why we would want to keep track of our checkbook or balance or a checkbook? Besides fraud?
I mean, could I
Anyone
write
else besides Ariana? Somebody else besides Ariana?
Could I write another check for $50? Can anyone tell me?
Paul, I see you have your hands up. Go ahead. Your hand
You
up.
couldn't because you only have $25 left. And the checking out's also important to like see like the amount of money that you have and what you're spending. Like if
Exactly.
there is there a way for you to spend?
Exactly. Well done.
Well done, Paul.
Good job.
Perfect.
Yeah, so it's a good way of keeping on top of what you have in your account.
So just to simplify that a little further in terms of keeping on top of what you have in your account, it means that if you have $10 and you're spending 11, then you're in trouble. So you're keeping track by subtracting all the withdrawals or all the checks you're writing or all the money you're taking out of your checking account from the total that you have in your checking account, so you can see what's left for you to still be able to spend. And this,
Yeah.
this is for you, the younger ones. So we have our young coaches, our 6th graders, 7th graders, 8th graders. Again, the checkbook is used so you can see how much money is left in your checking account.
Can you guys give us a thumbs up or a hand emoji or something to say that you're understanding and you're following? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
So
It's
we
very
have Gabby understands, Ariana, Paul understands, Isabel, Giovanni, Brill, do you get this? Do you understand this? Caden, do you understand this? Aiden?
You see, if you don't have your camera on, we're going to start calling on you.
Lucas?
There you go. There you go. Thank you, Ethan. Thank you, Diego. There you go, Aiden.
Do you guys have any questions? I just want to make sure you're all following because this is very informative and this is very important. Brill, do you have any question about this? Do you understand this? All right, move along.
All right, so gonna hold up a sheet here. Gonna bring this back a little bit. Does anybody know what this is? I'll give you a hint. It's got a word right here. Might not be legible.
The debit card.
The card.
All right, those are some great answers. All right, now, can anyone tell me what ATM stands for? I see a hand there.
I'm pretty sure it was like for automatic money printing machine or something. I can't remember it, but I remember it was like automatic.
Teller machine.
I was
Very
close.
close.
Not pretty.
Close.
So a teller is the title of a person who usually handles your business at the bank, right? An ATM is a machine that can do the job 24 hours a day. Why that's important is banks close, right? We have certain hours that we're open for the day, but what if you need money outside of the hours that we're open for the day? That's why ATMs were created. They were created so that you have that convenience of taking out money whenever you need to. You have that convenience of doing some of the transactions whenever we're not open. So just like seeing a teller, there's a lot of things that you can do at an ATM. Can someone give me an example of something you might be able to do? We talked about one of them.
Withdraw money.
Perfect. They do other things too. Anybody else got an answer?
What if you weren't keeping a check? What if you weren't keeping this list? Do you think you could do something? You could find out this at the bank, at the ATM? Oh,
So
you're
you
all
could
shy.
check your balance at the ATM. You can also, anybody say to make a deposit? So you can put your money or your checks in the ATM. And ATMs are pretty much all over the place, aren't they?
Yeah.
Now, I just showed you the card picture of a debit card. Thank you for the answer for that. Now, the purpose of a debit card is because banks want to keep your money safe. So in order to use an ATM card or a debit card, you have a thing called a PIN. It's called personal identification number. So that PIN is a piece of information that's critical to you. You're the one that selects that number. I know some of you might be a little bit on the younger side, so you might have a parent or guardian that selects that number for you. But that's okay. The most important thing is with the pen, that number that's given to you, you don't share that number with anybody. All right. And there's a reason why you don't share that number with anybody. Because you're giving, if you give that number out to someone and they take your money, that's your private number. So we would look at it like you are the one that's actually taking your money. So this is why you never give that PIN number out to someone. It's your own number. I know that some people might have someone they trust, but even if it's someone that you trust, you do not give that PIN number out. The other thing that we don't recommend is we say you should never be giving your card to anyone as well. So whether that be your ATM card or your debit card, all right? Do we know why you don't want to give that card out to someone?
Because then they have access to like all of your funds, pretty much.
You're correct. Because they have access to all of your money. And you're right. I see a note there. Someone can steal your money. That is correct. Someone can steal your money. They can steal it even without your PIN number. Surprise, right? So if you were to make a purchase online, they can't track your PIN number or use your PIN number. So if someone got access to your card, they could then use that card for an online purchase. It might not go through, but it also might go through. You can also use your card and go to a restaurant, or they can go to make a purchase with your card. So that gives them the avenue to really take all of your money. All right. So because your debit or ATM card is so important, what do you think you should do if you ever lose or you think you've misplaced your card? Does anybody have an answer for that?
I think you need to call the bank and have them freeze your account.
Great answer. So you should reach out to the bank as soon as you notice that your card is missing. And the reason being is you can stop someone from taking money from your account, or you can reduce the amount that they're taking from your account. So time, you ever heard that saying, time is money? I know we've heard that saying before, not maybe everyone, but time is money. And that is true when it comes to someone that wants to steal your money. The more time that you give them to steal your money, the more money can be stolen. Now, it's not all bad. We as the bank will do everything in our power to get you your money back if you have a situation where someone stole your money, right? Because we're all in this together. We're all one big happy family when it comes to the people that bank with us and us, the bank, right? So we will do everything in our power to get you your money back, but you also have to be mindful of, we also have stipulations and rules for how long it's acceptable for you not to tell us that you've lost your card. All right. And that means you
to
can't.
remember, yeah, you just, as soon as you lose your card, or you think I lost it, or it's got damage, it went in the washing machine by mistake, or you know you dropped it down the drain, you just call the bank and they will cancel it, freeze your account, and send you a new card. It's really simple, and you're not in trouble for losing it or damaging it.
Yeah,
Do
you're
you
not in
have to
trouble for
pay?
losing or
Oh, sorry.
damaging. Go ahead.
Do you have to pay any extra fee for like getting a new card or getting a replacement or anything like that?
So I can only speak for our bank. The answer for us is no, if it is a debit card or an ATM card. Other banks might charge you.
Okay.
And then for the PIN number, are you allowed to ever change it?
We have the capabilities to change your PIN number. It's even as easy as you can go to some ATMs and change your PIN number. So it is possible, but once again, I can only speak for what we can do. I can't speak for, anybody else. Any other questions in reference to that? Okay. Now I've got a question. If you were to go to our ATM with a TD card, do you think we would charge you to take money out?
No.
Great answer. I see another written answer. We will not charge you to take money out. But if it's a TD Bank card and you go to, let's say, Bank of America, do you think we would charge you if you took money out of a Bank of America ATM?
I know for a fact that my bank will charge me if I go to a different ATM, and also the bank whose ATM I went to charges me.
Mhm.
So the
Correct.
best thing is to always go to your own bank's ATM.
So yes, some banks do charge for using an ATM that's not their ATM. Now, we charge. Now remember that, as you said, the competitor or the other bank that you're taking the money from can charge as well, and in most cases will charge. So it can be quite a bit of a fee if you're going to a bank that's not the same bank that you have that account with. So you always want to make sure that if you need to take money out, you go to the same bank that you're banking with. Or if it really is an emergency and you really think you're going to need to take some money out, you have some thought process on, let's make sure that it's maybe once and that's it, and it's not consistently over and over again, because the fees will add up and they'll be quite a bit.
Okay.
All right. I think that is pretty much going to cover your ATMs and debit cards. Just going to ask a couple questions to you guys. We pretty much have covered your ATM and debit card. We're going to just do a bit of a practice, and I'm looking for some answers. Now, can someone tell me, what does ATM stand for?
Go on, Sophia.
I know it starts with automatic. Like,
Do you remember what the T was?
no.
Funny name. It's an old-fashioned name for the person who stands in the bank. Go on, Alessia.
Is it an automated teller machine?
Perfect.
Excellent. Yeah, teller is that funny name of that person.
Now, can someone tell me a transaction or a type of thing that you can do at an ATM machine?
Go on, Jack.
You can check your balance.
Perfect. I see a make a deposit. That's great as well. Anybody got the other one there?
You make a deposit, check your balance. What else can you do at an ATM?
I see some take out monies as well and do withdrawals. So
You
perfect.
can change your PIN number.
Yes.
Potentially change your PIN number. Yes, thank you. All right. Now we're not going to cover everything on a check, but if we can just write out some of the things that might be on the check under damper. So pieces that you actually look for on a check. Does anyone remember what D was?
The date.
Perfect. What about the A?
The amount.
Okay. M,
Maker.
Ooh,
got the P already written out, and great for the maker. Thank you. P already written out for the payee. What about the E?
That's what we do on the back, isn't it? Can people
That
remember?
was the endorsement, your
Endorsement.
signature.
Perfect. And the last R.
Rooting.
All right.
Yes.
And if I,
Well done.
so ATM transactions are always free, right?
Yeah.
No, not always.
Correct. They are not always free. There might be a charge that you could get for it. It's okay for whoever said yes, that's okay. But remember, they're not always free. All right. And you can give your debit card to your friend, right?
No.
Correct. You should not be giving your debit card to your friend. And if you were to lose your card, waiting a year to tell us is the right way to do it, right?
No.
Okay. Okay. And if I was to write a check and say, you can't cash this check until 2025, is that okay?
No.
That's right, Joel.
Ah, you guys are too good.
Well done, guys. See you in the chat.
mhm.
Thank you. Do we have any questions on what we've covered so far today?
Okay, so it looks like you've been very clear, Brandon, and it's been quite,
Yeah.
and guys, if you have any questions, any question, just put it in the chat or put your hand up, it's fine. This is for you.
Are all ATMs trustworthy, or is there any that you should stay away from particularly?
The answer to that is no. I personally would recommend staying away from ATMs that are in convenience stores or ATMs that are in an alleyway somewhere or in a place that's not lit. I don't use ATMs that aren't bank ATMs where I have to actually go into a building, show my card at the beginning, but that's how I bank, just because I've worked in the bank and I've seen a lot. You have to always be mindful of where you're taking money out of because there is always a risk. Without getting too elaborate or too far into that, just be mindful of, well-lit areas that an ATM would be in a high traffic, and that means a lot of people are going to that ATM. Preferably going to a bank ATM when you need to take out money.
When you think of using an ATM, just think of your safety, right? So Brandon mentioned, a well-lit area. So you're using a bank ATM where there's a lot of light, there's a lot of cameras. So your safety is very important. So that's why we recommend using a bank ATM.
Okay.
Any other questions that we might have for today's module?
I think that was very clear. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brandon. Thank you, Judith.
Yeah. Thank you, Brandon.
Enjoyed that. And thank you everybody who got onto the call and all took part. I really appreciate that. I know it's a, it's a school night and all the rest of it. So thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Everyone. Thanks so much. I appreciate
Thank
your
you.
involvement and your commitment. And thank you for the answers, for the participation. It's been a beautiful class. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Brandon
Thank
and
you.
Juliet, for being with us. Guys, thanks so much for joining. It's been an hour of great information. So I hope everybody walked away with something or the other. If you have any questions, of course, you know where to find Alice, myself, DJ. And of course, we can facilitate with Brandon and Juliet if any other questions come up beyond this call when you get off. Okay, feel free to let us know.
Okay.
I see a lot of you are jumping off because it's over the hour.
Yeah.
So have a good night.
Bye, guys.
Guys, thanks
a good
again,
night,
TD
everyone.
team. Thank you
Thanks.
very
Have
much.
a good night. Thanks.
Thank you, Judith. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you.
guys.
Appreciate it. Was very good.
Thanks.
Thanks, Brendan. Good night.
Thank you. Have a good
Bye.
night.
All right, good night.